Welcome back. And of course, if you are new to this channel, welcome. My name is Tracy, and in this video, I'm going to tell you guys all about the world's first documented alien abduction. It is the abduction of Betty and Barney Hill. So stay tuned. In my last video, I talked to you guys about the sighting that Betty and Barney Hill had experienced on the night of September 19th into the 20th of 1961. Now, they spent the following years of their lives, for the next few years, trying to find answers for what actually happened to them. Because as I pointed out in the last video, they had some damage to their shoes and clothing. They had these strange spots on the trunk of the car, which also reacted strangely when a compass was placed over it. And now Betty also began having dreams, or shall I say nightmares, about being abducted by these humanoid figures that Barney claims to have seen through the binoculars during the UFO sighting that they had experienced. In Betty's dreams, there was an examination table, and there were a lot of different, examinations being done. A lot of prodding around, so to speak. So this actually made Betty also feel a little fearful, because she began to wonder what actually happened and why are we missing hours from that night in 1961. So let's do a quick recap of the UFO sighting. After the UFO sighting, Betty and Barney Hill decided to put in a report to the Peace Air Force Base in the area where they lived in New Hampshire. So they reported the incident, and Betty and Barney also spoke with some people from different organizations as well during their search for more answers as to what went on that night. Betty and Barney Hill actually grew quite close to an NICAP investigator by the name of Walter Webb. The Hills have actually stated that their ever-increasing knowledge of scientific exploration and of all these different things throughout the time that they were researching what had happened to them was actually very interesting and exciting to them. And so that was even illustrated in a letter that they wrote in November of 1962 to Walter Webb of NICAP. And so I'm going to read that letter to you now. So Betty and Barney wrote, "Dear Walter, last Friday night we met with a small group of people to discuss our sighting. This was not a planned meeting, as far as we know. Present were Colonel in Intelligence, research engineer, pilot, a navigator, a hypnotist, a minister, and us. Actually, the minister, whom we've known for some time, invited us to visit at his home and casually mentioned that a few of his friends would be there. The hypnotist discussed his art and read some poetry, which he had published and was being released that day. Most of the people left, leaving the above-mentioned group. We found out that the colonel has known of our sighting for some time. Also, we were made aware that the Air Force does know of the existence of UFOs, but that they publicly deny this because they are swamped with fictitious reports that waste their time, money, and effort in disproving these. They need to be free to concentrate on the valid reports." The group seemed to reach the following conclusions or theories. The red lights on the wingtips were not running lights to guard against collision as our planes have, but were probably some type of equipment which might have been used in beeping us. The beeping sounds may be a sonar type were to test our reactions or a means of establishing communication with us, or some type of listening device or a way of attempting to control us. The beeping device left a neutralizing effect on the trunk of the car, resulting in the clean, clear spots on the metal where no dirt or dust accumulated for a few days, and this agent deteriorated. We talked with the hypnotist for a long time, and he appeared at first to be interested in hypnotizing us. Of course, we're still puzzling over the length of time our return trip took. Also, Betty's dreams of being captured, as fantastic as they are. Coincidentally, Ben, the hypnotist, asked about the same questions that the psychiatrist whom we consulted last spring asked. He came to the same conclusions, although he did make us aware of the reasons for his questions. To summarize, both said that there was good possibility that we had been captured and made to forget this by the use of hypnotism. Both felt that hypnotism was too dangerous to use at this time, but to concentrate on this, and we may remember by the natural process of recall. Ben questioned both of us closely about our feelings the first and second days after the sighting, and decided that our reactions were typical of a post-hypnotic state, and some suggestion, our intent to forget all about this at first, and then later deciding against this, and our feelings of being suspended, not of shock or fear or curiosity. These came later. Ben said that many times, if hypnotic amnesia is used, the person will recall in dreams, particularly if one tries to block the amnesia, such as Betty dreamed she tried to do. If one does not try to block, then that person will not recall or will need a long time to do this. Ben reached the decision that, in his opinion, we were captured. The use of hypnotism to bring this back was too dangerous. The possibility of shock, convulsions, or, if the experience was too terrorizing, amnesia for a while. Secondly, he did not know where hypnotic blocks had been set up to control us, and this could be messy. Our impulse might be to run, so we would need to be restrained to prevent us from running through a window or into a wall. This would add to our fear. He did cheer us up a bit. He said that undoubtedly somewhere there is a scientist writing his thesis on prehistoric Earth people, and we have contributed to his study. This whole situation is unbelievable, fantastic, and weird, but we felt that you might like to know about this. Also confidential. We're wondering if this meeting Friday night could be some type of Air Force investigation being done on a very quiet basis, or just a group of men interested in UFOs on a personal basis. So many unanswered questions. We wonder if we will ever know fully what happened that night. It was a pleasure seeing you, and whenever you are in this area, visit us. Very truly yours, Betty and Barney. So the hypnotist that was at that dinner party goes by the name of Captain Ben Sweat. And he's a B4 navigator for the 509th Bombardment Wing of the Strategic Air Command at Peace Air Force Base. So, as I said, they're meeting a lot of interesting people. They're gaining a lot of new knowledge and experience through having this UFO sighting and possible abduction. So, now we can fast forward a little bit here because they actually do get into contact with another doctor who can hypnotize patients. And that doctor goes by the name of Dr. Benjamin Simon. So on December 14th of 1963, they finally had a consultation with Dr. Benjamin Simon. And he also so happens to be a UFO and alien skeptic. Betty ended up writing about this in her diary. And it's also shared in the book Captured. It's the Betty and Barney Hill UFO Experience. This is a really great book. It covers every single aspect of the sighting, the abduction, as well as the investigation, and Betty and Barney Hill's life in general. So it's really a great book, and it's very thorough and reaches so many parts that I really can't cover here just because I don't want the videos to get way too long for you guys. But anyway, so in this book, they share Betty's diary account of her first time visiting with Dr. Benjamin Simon. So let me read that to you right now. So Betty recalled that when Barney and I presented ourselves to Dr. Simon in December 1963, we had many questions about hypnosis. What was hypnosis? Dr. Simon told us that no one really knew what it was. However, the kind he used was not the same as stage hypnosis, which we had seen in public demonstrations, but a special technique that he used as the chief of neuropsychiatry for the men returning from the war in the 1940s. Later, Barney asked Dr. Simon what a hallucination was, so Dr. Simon gave him a demonstration. Barney saw the office door open, saw a little white dog come into the room, felt him jump up on his lap and begin licking his face, and finally saw him go back out into the hall. Barney saw and felt the dog, but all the while he knew it was not real. It was imaginary. So they had a lot of questions for Dr. Benjamin Simon, obviously about hypnosis, and he was wondering what the difference between hypnosis and a hallucination is. Barney was always a little bit, I guess, skeptical about his own experience. Barney always wondered in the back of his mind if he was seeing things and therefore hallucinating during his UFO sighting experience. But it's in those times that Barney fails to remember that he and Betty drew very similar pictures of what they think they saw on the very next day after the sighting. And there's just so much information gathered during the hypnosis tapes and all of the sessions that they spend with Dr. Benjamin Simon. So now we're just going to kind of discuss some of the memories of the actual abduction that were recovered through hypnosis. During Betty and Barney Hill's UFO sighting, they do have faint memories of a roadblock and faint memories of a fiery glowing orb in the way of the highway. So now that they're finally under hypnosis, they're going to begin to put the pieces of the puzzle together as far as their memories. Now, the buzzing sound that Betty and Barney were able to hear as well as feel all throughout the car on the night of their UFO sighting is very possible that it is the buzzing that actually caused them to forget everything, if you know what I mean. Maybe these aliens have some type of, technology that we know nothing about that can affect the human mind in such a way. Who knows? I mean, literally anything's possible because these are not humans from the planet Earth that we're dealing with, according to what we find out in this hypnosis. So during their hypnosis, Betty and Barney find out that they were actually stopped in that roadblock in the road, and that is when they got out of the car to check it out, and Betty and Barney were then taken by the arms by these humanoid-like figures. Now, these humanoid-like figures were then taking them forcefully and even dragging Barney, which caused his feet to drag on the ground, explaining why his shoes were all scratched and scuffed up on the top of the shoes. It's because he was actually being drugged on board of this spacecraft. Now, Betty wasn't necessarily being drugged along. She was kind of moving along a little more. I guess she was actually cooperating more so than Barney was in getting on. Now, once they were abducted, that is when they had all kinds of experiments taking place on them. So next, let's discuss the examinations that took place once they were abducted. Now, in Betty's last hypnosis session, she was actually recorded stating, "I went up the ramp and I went inside and there was a corridor and there was a door and there was a light inside and there was a room and there was a light inside this room. It was a bluish light. And I wanted them to take Barney and me into the same room. When I got up to the door, Barney was behind me and I started to go into the room. And I just started to, and they take Barney past the door. There were two men, first two, then there were two men in front of me and two on each side of the door. The man who was behind me showed me the door and I went through and he came in behind me and the other men stayed with Barney." So in that hypnosis session, as you can see or hear, that is, Betty and Barney were taken separately in for their separate examinations from these aliens. So they were in separate rooms. They weren't allowed to be together, which I'm sure added to their fear in that present moment. But fortunately, they were then made to forget. Because I don't know if this is something you would really want to remember. I don't know. Okay, so in Barney's hypnosis sessions, he described his examination in this way. Barney said, "I felt my shoes being removed and my pants being opened, and I could hear a humming-like sound that they seemed to be making. They pulled my pants all the way down to where my legs were. I could feel them turning me over and putting something in my rectum. It was like a tube. It was not painful. I thought it was just a little larger than a pencil. I felt it go in very easily, and then it was withdrawn. They looked at my back, and I could feel them touching my skin right down my back as if they were counting my spinal column. I felt something touch right at the base of my spine, like a finger pushing, a single finger. I could only hear this rapid humming like sound, and then I was turned over again, and my mouth was opened, and I could feel 2 fingers pulling it back. And then I heard as if some more men came in, and I could hear them rustling around on the left side of the table that I was lying on, and something scratched very lightly like a stick on my arm. And these men left, and I was left with what I thought were 3 men, the 2 that had brought me in, and the other one that seemed to follow these 2 men. I could tell that there was more than one person in the room, but one man seemed to be moving around my body all the time. Now, one very strange thing that happened to Barney was that in the exact same place where the cup-like instrument touched him in the private area, he actually developed a bunch of warts right there in that exact same area a few days after the UFO sighting. Now, Barney had never before had growths like these. Now, fast forward to 1964 when he was reliving that examination under hypnosis. After that hypnosis session, Barney's warts actually inflamed and became rather uncomfortable to the point where he had them removed. And all in all, he had 21 3/4-inch growths removed from one small area of his body. And that to me is just, I feel like that's definitely correlated to his experience while he was abducted that night in 1961. Barney described his abductors' vocalizations, noting that their mouth moved, like he could see the mouth moving, but they wouldn't make actual sounds. It would be more like a humming or oh, 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 oh type quivering sound. I'm not real sure how to duplicate what he is trying to describe here, but it sounds like most of these men do not speak English or any type of language that was recognized by the Hills. Now, in Betty's experience, she had a very similar account of what these aliens sounded like. She also described it as like a rapid humming sound with different hums and noises such as that. Not necessarily, you know, words like what we're used to hearing as we communicate. Now, during Betty's examination, during her hypnosis session, when she recalled her examination, she said, I have my blue dress on, and they push up the sleeve of my dress, and they look at my arm here, and they look at my arm. They turn my arm over and they look at it. They have a machine. I don't know what it is. They bring the machine over and they put it, I don't know what type of machine. It's something like a microscope, only a microscope with a big lens. And they put, I don't know. I had an idea they were taking a picture of my skin. They scraped and they looked like little skin. You know how your skin gets dry and flaky sometimes? Like little particles of skin. There was something like a piece of cellophane plastic, something like that. And they put what came off on the plastic. The examiner opened my eyes and looks at them with the light. And he opens my mouth and he looks at my throat and my teeth and he looks in my ears. And he takes like a swab or Q-tip and he puts it in my left ear. And he puts another piece on the material. The leader took it and rolled it up and put it in a top drawer. And they take a couple of strands of my hair and they pull it out and he gives it to the leader and he wrapped it up and puts it in that top drawer. And they take a couple of strands of my hair. Oh wait, I already said that. So then he takes something that may be like scissors. I don't know what it is. Then they cut a piece of my hair here. They cut off a piece and he gives it to him. And then he feels my neck. And and through my shoulders, around my collarbone. And then they take off my shoes and they look at my feet and my hands. I'm not particularly interested in looking at them, and so I try to keep my eyes shut, and then I do open, not all the time. I sort of give myself a little relief by not looking at them. I shut my eyes, and he takes something and he goes underneath my fingernail, and then he takes something, I don't know, probably manicure scissors or something, and he cuts off a piece of my fingernail. They look at my feet all over. I don't think they do anything to them. They just feel my feet, my toes and all. Now, it was during Betty's examination and when she recalled during her hypnosis when she realized what could have caused the rip in her dress. Because as the aliens were taking her dress down, they weren't quite sure how to use the zipper. And so Betty recalls that he began pulling down on the zipper, and that is when the dress actually ripped in a couple of places along the zipper seam. So I don't know, what do you guys think of that one? Put your comments down below. Let me know what you think about everything that's coming to light. It is everything that they've had time to almost in their minds logically develop kind of an idea of what they think might have happened if they were abducted. So sometimes it is hard for me to think, is this hypnosis session actually retrieving memories, like actual memories, or is their hypnosis retrieving things that they have imagined over the last few years? Now, I do want to note that the late UFO researcher and writer named Carl Flock actually conducted an extensive investigation of the Hill UFO encounter, and he concluded that with all of the evidence that it pointed towards an actual alien abduction. So he believed that their encounter was certainly a genuine UFO encounter and abduction. Now, after this whole experience was over, Betty and Barney Hill both had, they had some bouts of bad health. And Betty even had a surgery on her throat that left her voice very raspy for the rest of her life. And in general, Barney's health was declining rapidly ever since. Now, it was December 24th of 1968 is when their dog, Delcy, actually died. And so they lost their dog, who was with them when this experience took place. And then only 2 months later, on February 25th, it was Barney's turn. So Barney died at the age of 46, and it was of a cerebral hemorrhage, is the way that he had passed. Now, Betty was able to live out, obviously, more of her life after that, where she just spent the rest of her time in life just sharing more about her experience, being interviewed about her experience, and she even helped other people investigate their own UFO sightings and abductions. And so, Betty in general lived out her life, the rest of her life, with this UFO experience, literally changed the course of her entire life, really, because it was from that point on that her life consisted mostly of UFOs and investigating them, talking about them, remembering all of the things that happened to her on that night. So, what do you guys think about the Hills experience? I really can't wait to find out. Do you believe that this actually happened to them? I do. I just believe that it would be strange for someone to take a lie to this extent. They spoke with the Peace Air Force Base only days after it first happened. And then they had other investigators such as NICAP involved, the writers, they had scientists, hypnotists. So honestly, I don't see a reason why Betty and Barney would have lied about this experience that they had. So I'm definitely going to lean towards I believe them, and I think that this is a true UFO and abduction sighting. So UFO sighting and abduction. So anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Well, that about wraps it up for this video. So if you like this video, be sure to click that like button. And if you thought that this video was spooky and you enjoyed it, be sure to share this story with your friends on social media. And of course, if you're a viewer but not yet a subscriber, I would love for you to click subscribe right under this video. And once you have hit subscribe, you can then click the bell to be notified each and every time that I upload a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching and spending your time with me. I love you. And I'll see you next time. Bye.